well with creative financing if you don't understand how you really need to understand how to structure before you can really do creative financing well.
Yeah, and the thing I think people like about the way I teach creative finance is that I'm not that smart. And so when I listen to other people teach creative finance, I'm like, you guys make my brain just want to quit.
Overcomplicate it.
They use terminology and words that don't make sense to the normal human being. So what we'll do is I'll talk about creative finance in everyday life that pertains to every strategy. So like the way my mom used to build her sewing business, she actually did it through creative finance, and I'll tie that in, tell you guys really good stories so you can understand at a very high level what these things are without having to like get your brains melted.
Which is so important, because if you can't explain it to your seller and you confuse the seller, you just killed your deal. And sellers, again, guys, when we're talking about creative finance, seller finance, sub 2, blah, 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 wraps, notes, deeds of trust, none of these things I actually ever say to the sellers, and neither does Jerry. I watch a lot of his seller calls. We tell stories and we get people to understand everyday situations. So we're gonna have a lot of fun with this. So let's say that I'm a wholesaler, right? Because a lot of people on your channel are wholesalers. I'm generating leads. I'm either cold calling, I'm texting, I'm sending out postcards, whatever it is. Leads are coming in. Here's what I found, okay? I found the average wholesaler has to look at about 40 to 50 leads in order to get one wholesale deal. Is that kind of the average you're looking at? Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, so our acquisition team is 40 to 50 to get one cash deal. But I can take that exact same set of leads, and utilizing this list we're gonna rattle off right now, I can get another 4 deals out of those same 50 leads.
So think about that, Pace. People are spending thousands of dollars in marketing, looking for that low cash offer scenario, that 5% motivated seller willing to take that big discount. What you're saying is, out of that throwaway, that money you've spent that now you're basically throwing away, you've got 4 more deals in that same list that is getting discarded by most wholesalers.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
This may be an analogy Jerry doesn't want me to put on his YouTube channel, but let's say you show up to a party and there's a bunch of guys and a bunch of girls. And there's like 5% of the girls in there are really beautiful. They dress well, they did their hair, they wore their makeup, and they're there to look for a date. I don't necessarily want to always go after that 5%, because guess where all the other men are? Everybody else is competing for the same 5%. So for me, as I look around the room and I go, oh, hey, that deal over there, or that real estate transaction, or maybe that girl in my world, all she does, she's missing a dress. I'm gonna give her a nice dress. Oh my gosh, that's the most beautiful woman in the world. So you just gotta look at things and realize that the value is not on the surface a lot of times. The value could be in the individual deal. And we're gonna talk about how to uncover that value and how to make money on that value, so that you walk into a room, everybody else is competing on the 5% wholesale deals. I don't have to compete. I just have to be creative in my thinking.
And I think the biggest mindset shift that has to happen with creative financing is to stop looking at price. You know, as cash, when we do cash buyers and wholesalers that are thinking cash only type of transactions, it's all about the price. Whereas one of the things you teach is with creative, it's not about the price, it's about the use.
Right, I tell people
the future value of that use.
Right, so people go, well, how can you do that? How can you pay that price? And I go, because the value of a house in cash transactions is what you could sell it for to a family. But in creative finance, the value of the transaction is what you can do with it, right? The value of the use, like Jerry just said. So I don't look at the purchase price. In fact, when I underwrite a creative finance deal, the purchase price is like the 5th thing I look at. Yeah. The first thing I look at is, what can it produce me in income versus what will it cost me on a monthly basis? And I figure out my spread. And then I figure out, number 2, how much is this going to require for me to bring maybe a partner to the table or whatever. We can talk about that later. We could do a whole video on how to underwrite a creative finance deal.
Totally.
And the process we go through.
Yeah. But I think, guys, the whole point here with why we're doing this series is, when you spend money on marketing, or when you get on the phone with an agent or a seller, you want to have all the tools in your toolbox to take advantage of each and every lead. Pace's goal and my goal is, on every appointment, walk out of there with a deal. And the more you understand creative, the more you can structure these amazing deals. And if you don't want them, wholesale them, but you've got to be able to become a full service acquisition engineer to really do this business well, especially with how much it's costing now to do marketing and to get in front of sellers, right?
When I jumped into the business, probably very similar to Jerry, is that when you were doing only cash transactions, you realize the most important KPI that I followed, key performance indicator, like the measurement of success in my business, was cost per contract. Okay. So I would go spend money on marketing, let's say $10,000 in postcards for 3 months. And if I got one contract in 3 months, that means that one contract cost me $10,000. So my cost per contract was very, very high in that scenario. So I got really good at acquisitions and running the business. I was watching Flipping Mastery, just FYI, make sure you guys subscribe. So I was learning those things and learning how to be really good at cash. But then I was like, man, how do I get my cost per contract down? Well, the answer is take those exact same leads and figure out how to get creative with those. And my cost per contract would go from $10,000 a contract down to $1,500 a contract because I could have 5 contracts per set of leads rather than just one. So that's what we're going to be showing you guys today. And let's start with the list. What are the other strategies I can use besides just offering cash?
Let's talk about that 7 or 8 main. There's lots. I think I've saw you list off like one time 27 or whatever.
Yeah, there's 27 different strategies in creative
finance. Let's stick to maybe the top 7 that that we're going to cover in this series and subsequent videos, and really deep dive those 7 or 8 top ones. So,
okay,
in your mind, what are the top ones?
Number one's got to be seller finance. Okay, it's commonly known. It's actually written in all the real estate contracts. It's legally written in so many, like every state has a seller carryback addendum for real estate agents. So even real estate agents know. You can find seller finance deals on landwatch.com. There's 11,700 listings right now on landwatch.com for seller finance. Very common.
Some of the other names are owner carry, owner financing, seller financing, any others?
There's another one that was really good. I forgot. Seller carryback.
Seller carryback, yeah.
Seller carryback, installment sale. Okay. A lot of times they'll call them installment sales. That's kind of an older school methodology. Seller finance, creative finance, whatever. Or owner finance. They'll use owner finance, seller finance. Those are synonymous of each other.
But big picture, seller is the bank.
Right, seller is the bank. So here is the reason you'll run into a lead, right? A lead comes into my system, whether I'm cold calling, texting, whatever. Typically, seller finance is the seller is looking for too high of a price. Okay, I call this gain. They are looking for gain. They don't care about anything else. They don't typically have pain. So these are the sellers you're on the phone with that are like, nope, I'm not budging on my price. Yes, I'm selling. I need to go downgrade, upgrade. I'm moving out of state, whatever. But no, I'm not budging on price. So the number one thing they care about is price. And so in seller finance, we can pay the seller's price as long as they'll allow us to make payments on that price rather than go and get cash to give it all to them at the same time. Yeah. So seller finance, I'd say, is number one, most common. We'll start with that in video number 1.
Big thing to remember is they have no debt on the property.
No debt on the property.
So they own it free and clear, which, by the way, I didn't realize this, but 30% of all real estate owned is free and clear.
It's bonkers. When you drive around your town and you realize that one out of every 3.5 houses that you drive by, or 3 out of 10, you're like, these free are and clear. Paid off?
Yeah, free and clear.
Paid off? Like, that's how amazing the opportunity with seller finance is. So that's number 1. We'll do that. That'll be the next video. No, that'll be video number 3.
Yep.
Because video number 2.
We're going to do instruments and terminology, some
paperwork, all that stuff. Number 2, what happens when a seller owes too much money on the property and they can't sell the property because there's no equity? Yep. That would be subject to.
And we're going to see more and more of that coming up.
It's overwhelming. For me, this is how common creative finance is. I've turned off all cash acquisitions for the next 24 months. People DM me, they text me, they email, and they go, Pace, here's a great cash deal. I go, I'm not looking at cash. I'm so overwhelmed right now with sub 2 opportunities.
Because the opportunities are so big.
It's overwhelming. Yeah. And here, I'll give you a typical person. Somebody that's in foreclosure, right? They have lack of equity, or the property needs a little bit of work and they don't want to go through a real estate agent, or it didn't sell on the market or whatever. And this is crazy because here's what's happening. In Maricopa County, where you used to live, I live now, we had 3,000 listings on the MLS in January. We now have 23,000 listings less than 10 months later. So
huge inventory spike.
Right, inventory spike. Days on market have gone way, way high. Real estate agents can't sell houses. It's crazy. What about the people that got loans last year
that want to sell.
3%, 4%, whatever in the last couple of years that now we're trying to sell, and the market's already dipped 10%. It's going to dip another 10, 15% over the next 24 months. There's millions of opportunities that you guys can